Grow your practice, grow your wealth, grow your impact. Find out how to spend less time in the dental chair and more time on the things you love.
Welcome back to the Dental Wealth Podcast. Glad to have you back. If you listened to last episode, I got to flip my lucky quarter and pick my episode. And I'm not going to bring the lucky quarter today. But there was an interesting conversation. And the conversation afterwards was, because I had this lucky quarter. And I said, look, I'm going to flip this lucky quarter. And then on heads, what we're going to do is we're going to pick, I think I said, how to get a great team. And then I think the other one was marketing. And it ended up going to marketing, and it flipped on marketing. And so we talked about marketing. And then during that conversation together, I talked about numbers, and I was talking about acquisition cost and kind of concepts about how much money you need to be putting into it and what does it look like, and starting to, it's kind of very concrete. And so there was a comment made in this room afterwards. It was like, it's pretty good because, a lot of times we talk about some of the qualitative stuff. It's good to throw some math in there, that way we kind of mix it up some. And, I kind of thought about that comment afterwards, and it kind of made me think, and it's like, well, okay, this is the Dental Wealth Podcast. So why don't I spend the majority of the time just talking about math, right? Because we can talk about, I get hit up by all kinds of people in the financial world. Literally this morning, I was on a webinar about private equity movements. We could talk about private equity within dental, and we will. We can talk about, stock market moves. We can talk about, where's the best capital investment in your practice, all those things, right? I mean, I could just sit here and list topic after topic after topic. And ultimately speaking, we'll go more and more into each one of these. And by the way, submit something. I mean, you're more than welcome to submit. Send an email to info@towerleadership.com and say, look, this is what I'd love to have at the Dental Wealth Podcast. You can send, me an email as well. But let me tell you why, obviously with clients, I spend a lot of time in their individual situation, and we look at their math, and we look at their breakdowns and what they're trying to get accomplished mathematically and financially. And then, there's a lot of stuff around that. And if you'll notice on this podcast, like I tend to not get really heavy into, a lot of mathematics. And some of them I have. I mean, I've talked to you about the difference between selling and non-selling and 401ks and qualified funds. And so I kind of go back and forth and I bounce around a little bit. And so it kind of poses the question if you're listening to this. And by the way, I mean, I always tell you guys this, but thank you for the support. I listen to I look at the numbers, and the numbers are through the roof. So thank you again for your support. But I want to tell you why I bounce around a little bit. It's like there was once a saying, and it's like always stuck out to me, which is, I'm going to tell you what you want to hear, so you'll let me tell you what you need to hear. And so oftentimes when I bounce into the qualitative, it's like, well, why are you bouncing into the qualitative? Why don't we just talk about numbers? I mean, it's a Dental Wealth Podcast. So ultimately speaking, we should spend the majority of our time looking at financial numbers, right? I mean, we should be talking about ideal ratios in marketing, or ideal ratios when it comes to team. What is maximum for an operatory? How much? I mean, these are all. How much should I invest into an operatory? What should be the ROI? How many days ROI? And yes, obviously in my workshops with clients, we spend a lot of time in a lot of those areas. But I wanted you to hear, the truth, and the truth is that I've been blessed. And I've been blessed to, I've made success and people's success a career. And that's really what I've made as a career. And I've been blessed to be around success and successful people. And I've made a lot of millionaires. And then I've seen people who haven't done things and they haven't become successful. And, I've seen people also, who became successful for 12 months and then they thought they had it on their own, right? And so then they go off and they'll ultimately go back to doing what they were doing before. And so I see all these things, and then I start to go like, okay, so what happens is, just like with patients, over time, you start to see like, what is the pattern? What is the pattern between these people? And you start to see it so clearly, and I mentioned on this podcast. And it becomes like we just freaking want to communicate that, right? You just want to like, trust me, I'm telling you what you need to know. Like, you need to know, like, if you want to become financially wealthy, you need to listen to what I'm saying. And its attitude becomes so much part of that, because what happens is we think we got this stuff down and we think we understand it, and you don't. And that's the problem. And people don't. And so when I say you don't, some of you might. But I mean, it's a difficult thing, because we start to challenge so many things, and we don't allow the reality to actually sink in. So let me give you a topic. So like last time I talked about it. So let me give you an example of what I mean. I'm kind of just going into bloviating a little bit. Let me tell you what I mean. So let's talk about talent for a minute. Okay, I said if I flip the quarter, I was going to talk about talent. All right. So like I had a talk with this doctor, maybe it was 2 weeks ago. This great guy, just amazing client, amazing doctor. And he says, "Man, I feel like I'm stealing everybody's people." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, I mean, all the people from all over keep coming to my office. Like, I keep getting all these phone calls from all my competitors in town. And like, I don't want to be that guy, but man, it's like everybody's pounding down my door to come work for me." And this was also someone who was challenged with this idea of like, by the way, last year, like, by the way, he lost like his entire team. So like now's a guy who lost half of his team, was beating himself up because he was like, "Man, I've lost half my team. And what am I doing so poorly as a leader? What am I doing so poorly that I lost half my team?" And then we go fast forward 6 months, 8 months later, and he's got people like just like beating down the door. Now, financially speaking, you hear me from the financial side. What does it have to do with finance and wealth? Everything. Because one of the biggest challenges you face as an entrepreneur, one of the biggest challenges you're going to face is this challenge of getting great talent around you. Like it's like at Tower Leadership, maybe I should have started a staffing firm, right? Because like every day it's like, do you know somebody who could run operations for our practice? Do you know another doctor? Do you know, I'm not in staffing. But I tell people, I'm like, you want to be like, have great talent. So this is one of those ones. Well, financially, what does it cost you to not have the team? So here's the question. Financially speaking, so let's go qualitative to quantitative. Financially speaking, what does it cost you to not have the team? To not have the right team, to not have the doctor, to not be able to find the doctor could cost you, hundreds of thousands of dollars of personal income per year. Let alone being able to service your team and take care of your team and take care of your community and take care of your family and grow your net worth and all these other things. So what ends up happening is if we can't find the hygienist, if we can't find the right people, then it costs us a lot of money. So financially speaking, it is a quantitative conversation, but it has a qualitative solution. And that's the really sticky part, is it's a quantitative results, but a qualitative solution. And what happens is where people struggle, and matter of fact, I was listening to this private equity conversation this morning, and it was some folks out of Columbia University, Ivy League school, and they were talking about one of the things that private equity groups struggle with, and some of the private equity firms, and said, one of the things they struggle with is a lot of these folks that are in these private equity firms, they don't have practical knowledge. So they don't have, these are people who went to, oftentimes some Ivy League school, and they went and got a background in investment banking. And, in a sense, they've got as much practical expertise running a business as a professor, right? Because it's all theory in a sense, because they've never actually run operations. And running the operations of a business, and what does it look like, and what are the challenges of running operations? Now, I'm bringing this back to dental. Stick with me here. So what ends up happening is they get in a situation where they're not able to grow these businesses the way they want to. They're not able to remember, they're looking for what? They're looking for a quantitative result. They're looking for a quantitative result, i.e. they want to buy a company, and a lot of times a dental practice. They want to buy a dental practice, and then they want to increase valuation, put them together, and then sell them off, right? And by the way, this is not about advocating that model or even talking about that model. That's not the point of this. But because they don't have the practical expertise inside and they struggle, then don't you think building the right team is a huge part of their problem? And so it becomes a quantitative problem, is like we can't get these things to grow the way we want to because we don't have the qualitative parts in place. And there's been so many studies that have been done that show over and over again, one of the biggest, I want you to write this down if you got a pen, but literally the greatest contributing factor to profitability and growth is organizational health. Organizational health. If you want to grow your business and you want to make it profitable, you invest in organizational health. And the problem why that doesn't happen, and we don't invest in organizational health, is simply because people are like, man, that's not the science stuff. So we let the accountants get a hold of like this decision-making process, and they go, man, I'm not spending money on building out leadership and leadership teams and taking care of people, and I'm like, that's all just fluffy stuff. I want to make money. We're here to make money, and that costs money, and that's an expense of the organization, and so we're not going to expend. By the way, you could do the same thing. You'll go, oh, I'm not going to pay for that consulting, or I'm not going to pay for that training, or I'm not going to pay for that because it's an expense to my organization. By the way, you do the same thing. It's just a different scale. And so ultimately speaking, they're struggling to get the results they want, and they don't know why. And that's one of the things that these private equity groups face, by the way. And it's the same thing you face. You face the exact same thing, by the way. And so what happens is that we realize, and by the way, management has realized that organizational health has a huge factor, and plays a huge factor is what I should say, in overall growth and profitability. So if you want scalability, profitability, growth, you have to increase organizational health. You should know that. Like, that's just a fact. And we were talking the other day because somebody had said to me, they were like, Eric, the way you build out practices, the way you work with people is you don't do any flash in the pan garbage. Like, you don't do any like, hey, in 6 months, I'm going to completely transform your business. No, you took 35 years to mess it up. It takes more than 6 months sometimes to turn it around. Now, here's the thing about that. Why do I say that? Because there's a lot of people who have flash in the pan stuff, but how does that work with diets? How does that work with anything, marriages or anything else in our life? Flash in the pan stuff doesn't work. It's a concerted effort over a period of time to change an organization forever. And so what ends up happening is we all want flash in the pan, but what happens with flash in the pan, especially flash in the pan consulting, is that revenues will go up, but you might lose half your team because they're so miserable, and you put some plan in that makes everyone individualistic, and because you didn't think about organizational health, you were just focused on, like I always say, you get what you measure. And so what ends up happening is that when we look at how to build a business that lasts, which is, by the way, what you want, a team that lasts, by the way, is what you want, growth and profitability that continues to increase, which is what you want, then what happens is, just like physical fitness, like you have to put a long concerted effort over a period of time, and it never goes away, by the way. You don't ever stop going to the gym. Like you can't just do 6 months in the gym and then just walk away and go, well, I'm good for the rest of my life. It just doesn't work like that, right? So we understand that if we're going to build great businesses, then what we have to do is we have to constantly invest in our organizational health, and our growth, and our education, and our training, and that's what great organizations do. It doesn't ever stop. And so this person, let me get back to my example here. This person, what happened is we spent a lot of time talking about leadership. And in fact, one of the things I do once a year is I do a just giant leadership retreat, and we have all the teams come out, and it's just a very moving event. And so what happened was the leadership, he pushed the leadership so high. And I always talk about organizational ceiling. So what happens is when an organizational ceiling, so if you're watching me on YouTube, you got like to see my hand right now. So an organizational ceiling, what happens is that all organizations are capped by an organizational ceiling. Now, don't make the mistake. This is quantitative. Don't make the mistake. This is quantitative. You have to hear me on this. So what happens is you hit this organizational ceiling. So what ends up happening is your organization stops at 1.4. Boom. I can't seem to get to 1.8, Eric. Boom. boom, and I'm hitting this wall and I'm stuck and I just can't get through it. So finally what ends up happening is this doctor says, I need help. I can't get through this organizational ceiling. And the problem with flash in the pan is in a sense, the organization didn't grow. What we did was we threw some flash in the pan thing, and the organizational ceiling momentarily went up, but the capabilities did not. By the way, revenues went up, but the capabilities did not. And it comes right back down. And oftentimes actually lower than it was because you lose team. Now, what happened here was this person decided he was going to push this organizational ceiling up, and that was going to be done through leadership. And he was going to require, this doctor was going to require more out of the team from a leadership perspective, okay? And by the way, he was investing in them and building them up, but he was going to require them not to be so complacent. Now, such an important concept for you to get. When you go to move your organizational ceiling, so you ask somebody to grow, okay, especially if you acquire a practice that's been not doing anything for 30 years. When you go and ask a person to grow, one or two things are going to happen. One or two things are going to happen. And you can write these down. Option one, they grow. They're on board. They're like, man, I'm in. Doc, I'm in. I want to grow. I want to become better. I want to help build an organization. I want to do all these amazing things. Or option number two, they get frustrated. They fight back. They push back. They tell you it'll never going to work. They literally, when you start trying to raise that ceiling, they're going to push back on you and tell you it's not going to work. And so that's what ends up happening as you hit this organizational ceiling. It's like, boom. And all of a sudden they're like, I don't want to do this shit. Like, I don't want to move. I don't want to grow. I don't want to become better. I just want to come in. I want to clock in at 8 o'clock. I want to clock out at 4:30. I want to make my, whatever you've been paying me for the last 20 years. And I want to go home. I want to complain that I don't make enough money, but not add additional value. And I don't want to do anything else. And so what ends up happening is for this doctor, now a lot of doctors, by the way, won't push through the organizational ceiling. They won't push through the organizational ceiling because ultimately saying what's going to happen is they go, well, I don't want Susie to be upset with me. And I don't want Betty to quit. Okay. By the way, if that's you know what I'm talking about. We all know what I'm talking about, right? We're all on the same page here, okay? Now, by the way, this is a quantitative result. I'm giving you a quantitative result. You just got to hear me. I told you the solution's qualitative. The problem's quantitative, okay? So what ends up happening is this person raises the organizational ceiling, raises the talent level, raises the expectations, raises what we're going to do in the business. As he does this, he loses talent, okay? Now, he lost the right type of people. He lost the right type of people. Now, he allowed those people to go be successful somewhere else because they weren't going to be successful in his organization. They weren't going to be successful there because he was going to require more of them to become better. So what ended up happening, by the way, here's something for you to get to. If you're a talented person and you walk into an organization with a bunch of non-talented people, what do? You leave. That's a fact. And what you're left with, if you're not willing to push up the organizational ceiling, I promise you, all the talented people already left your organization. And you're already complaining every single day that you're like, I just can't find good people. It's you. It's your system. It's your organization. The good people left. They came in, they checked it out, and they were like, I'm out of here. Like, they weren't hanging out. They were like, I'm gone. Like, I'm out of here. So they left. I promise you. They're gone. The people that came in your organization, the hygienist who left, who was really talented, who left, they told you that they left because their husband got a job somewhere else, or they told you that they were just ready for a change, or they told you that, they were going to take some time off from hygiene, but then 2 weeks later, they took a job somewhere else. They told you a reason and they left. By the way, if you're listening to this and you're a team member, I guarantee you're like, yep, absolutely. Now, what you were left with was the people that were not talented, that were not driven, that were not growth oriented, that did not have a growth mindset. And then you wonder why your organization can't grow financially. And what ends up happening is you get stuck with these people. And so you're not able to grow the ceiling. Now, the hard part was what this doctor did. Now, by the way, he was beating himself up a little bit. He's like, God, what did I do as a leader, man? I must be a bad leader that I lost all these people. And I said, no, it's the opposite. You're a phenomenal leader. That's why you lost all these people. I'm going to say that again. I said to him, you're a phenomenal leader. That's why you lost all these people. You lost the heavy weight, the people that weren't helping you get forward. So that's what people don't understand. That's what accountants don't understand. Like, we were losing the right type of people. Now the accountant says, well, we were only paying them $12 an hour. We didn't want to lose them. Not understanding that that's the person who was holding the damn organization back from doing what it could be doing. And every time someone tried to do something better, she pushed back. And she told him why we should rally against the doctor, right? You guys know who I'm talking about. And so fast forward. Now this doctor decides, now he's got his head in the dirt and he's like, man, I just lost half my team. Shoot, man, what did I do so wrong that I lost half my team? And then what ended up happening later was impressive. Now you gotta stay tuned to the rest of the story, right? Stay tuned to the rest of the story. The doctor ends up getting, like, now what ends up happening is he starts attracting really talented people because the leadership went up. Because the leadership went up, he started getting people go, man, you got to go work for Dr. fill in the blank. Like, you got to go work for this doctor. Man, he is unbelievable. He takes care of his people. He pays them well. He's trying to help them. He's investing in their growth. He wants to build an amazing culture. He's got an awesome vision for where the practice is going. He actually cares about people. He cares about his community. He's and you know what? Who those people hang out with? Hygienists hang out with hygienists. And assistants hang out with assistants, and doctors hang out with doctors. And then before you know it, now he felt bad because he let go of the bad way. He was willing to push through because he's not doing flash in the pan garbage. He's looking to build a long-term business, a successful business long-term, so he can grow and scale and get out of the chair. So what ended up happening was, now all of a sudden he's these amazing people, and he's like, man, I love this. And so now he cannot stop finding people. And in fact, he's like, Eric, I've got more people reaching out to me than I know what to do with. And I'm like, and that's how you find talent. It's not a recruiter. You build a better organization. I know what you're thinking. Well, it's easier to just hire a recruiter. I understand that. It's expensive. And sometimes you might hire a recruiter. But ultimately speaking, if you don't have the organization that's designed to retain those people anyhow, they'll just leave. And so we talk about building top talent. And this is what private equity doesn't understand. It's what so many doctors don't understand. So many people don't understand. It's like, if you're going to build an organization to last, what you do is you actually go to focus on organizational health. And so what ends up happening is, when we have Dental Wealth podcasts, like, Eric, I just want to talk about money. I'm talking about money right now. I am. Because, see, I know what the long-term economic consequences of you not building the right leadership team. I know the long-term economic consequences of you not building organizational health. I know the economic consequences of you not being able to find a doctor. I know the economic consequences of you losing multiple hygienists. I know and we can keep going, right? So you have to understand this. It's like, you have to hear the economic calling of this. What if I had an organization where I had these amazing leaders who loved being here every day, who were committed to my growth, who were committed to, as people say, well, associates. So give me an example. So I was on a call, I think it was 2 weeks ago, with a group of doctors. And one of the doctors on there is an associate. And, people will tell me, well, associates just want this and they just want that. They don't want to be here long term. They're not committed. It's you. And in fact, I'll tell you this associate was on this call. She's part of the leadership team of the practice. She started part of building something. She's just this amazing, amazing doctor. And she said to every doctor there, she goes, can I just tell you guys something? She said, I own no part of this practice, 0, but I am committed to the growth and long-term success. That happened because of the doctor, because of the leadership of the owning doctor. And so what ends up happening is, when you start saying, well, how do I retain top talent? So here's the answer. Here's a quick answer. How do I attract and maintain top talent? Here's the answer. Ready? You can write this down. You got to work on you. Yeah, you got to work on you. And you got to invest in your own self-education and your own leadership skills and your own ability to talk to people. And you get yourself out of the damn chair so that you can focus on your team and focus on their growth and focus on their success. You make their success a priority. You make their growth a priority. You make sure you take care of the team first. You create a servant leadership model. Yeah. Is that economic? Yes, it's economic. Because what ends up happening is when your main focus is to make sure they're taken care of and their jobs are taken care of and their growth are taken care of, it will attract top talent. And in fact, you'll have so much top talent, you won't know what to do. See, that's how you build amazing. See, so part of this is teaching you, like, it's not just, that's what great businesses are made of. They're made of qualitative and quantitative. And so what ends up happening is when you hear me get on these qualitative conversations, it's like, she's trying to sound like Tony Robbins or something, or it's all positive stuff. And this is, inspirational or whatever you want to say, right? And it's like, why is he worried so much about personal development and growth? And it's like, because I know what the people that come to me with the highest net worth, the people that grow to the highest net worth, the people that are able to impact other people, the people that have the most scalable practices, the people that have I'm just telling you, I'm telling you the secret. And when it ends up happening, people say, well, I'll just go buy an incentive program instead. I don't want to actually work on me. I'll just go buy, this one company's got an incentive program I can put in place, flash in the pan. And we start to go, well, no, let's talk about the long-term, company. Now, I care about that. I mean, the reason I'm doing this podcast is because I actually care about you, even though I've never met you. I mean, I look at the numbers. There's no way I've met all you guys. And so I know how many, thousands of people listen to this podcast. And even though I haven't met all of you, I want you to know that, I do care about you. And I care about your success, and I care about your financial success, and I care about your impact. I want to see you do awesome, amazing things. So when I talk about qualitative, and I go into these conversations about, maybe certain qualitative conversations, what I want you to know is this, that I'm doing it because I see the quantitative, I know what the quantitative looks like, and I know the financial results you want. I have a big enough sample size. I know what the results you want, and I know how you can get there. 100%. There's not a person I can't look right in the eye and tell. I can tell you how to become 100% successful. Exactly how you want to be successful, personally and professionally, by the way. But what it comes down to is sometimes answers we don't want to hear. So, for instance, I mean, if I told you had to get yourself to the gym 5 days a week, you might not want to hear that. You might hear that I found 15-minute abs and and 15-minute abs will get me there quicker there, Eric. If I could just get 15-minute abs, I'd be good. That's true. But when we start to realize, by the way, it's not true. How does that stuff work out? Never. How many people do you know that have been on Atkins Diet for 20 years, 10 years, 5 years? How many people do you know that took Atkins Diets and I've been on Atkins for 5 years and I've maintained the exact body weight that I want, the muscle composition I want? No, you don't. Come on. It's the cabbage soup diet. I'm going to do cabbage soup. I mean, I don't know who thought about that, but it's the same thing with a lot of these consulting companies. Look, guys, they're just, the marketing companies are the same way. It's flash in the pan, try to pop up the results temporarily. And then ultimately speaking, you're left with an organization that loses talent, that people are unhappy. You're not hitting the revenues you want, and ultimately you're not getting where you want to be long term. And the truth is look, everybody wants more time and money. Am I right? I mean, everybody wants more time and money, and everybody wants more impact. And I would hope. I think, and you, by the way, you might not know you want impact, but you do. Trust me. Every single person that I've made independently wealthy always comes back, and they always say the same thing. Like, Eric, what now? What now? And now we go back and impact a whole lot of people. So here's what I want you to take away from this podcast. I felt like I got a little bit of a tangent today. I get fired up about this stuff. Look, sometimes, I would say better, oftentimes the result is actually a qualitative solution becomes a quantitative result. that a qualitative solution creates a quantitative result. When Steve Jobs went back to Apple, Apple was almost bankrupt, by the way. They were literally days away from bankrupt. And his legacy created the first $1 trillion company. He went to go work on qualitative, not quantitative. That oftentimes it's easy to go ask the accountant where you should make money, but you can't cut your way to profitability, which is why accountants shouldn't be advising on your business. When we actually start looking into your investment in business, one of the greatest things we can do is invest in ourselves and our self-education, which is why I'm thankful you're on this podcast today. And I will tell you, if you go back and listen to the episodes and you actually start implementing just what's here, I'm going to tell you right now, it can absolutely transform your financial and personal life. So, take this stuff to heart. Think about this and say, if I'm struggling to get top talent, if I'm struggling to get those people, I got to go focus on me. I got to become the leader that attracts those people, because I ultimately want to walk in a room and be like, I cannot believe these people work for me. Do you walk in your office now and literally think to yourself, like, I can't believe these people work with me? Or do you walk in and think, man, I can't stand these people? By the way, I hope you don't say that. And I want you to walk into an office that's, when you say, I look at these amazing people and I'm so blessed. And that's because of leadership. And if you go focus on you, watch what happens to the ultimate financial results. Thanks for listening. Look, I always tell you as I sign off on this, listen, share this with a friend, share with a colleague. I really do appreciate all that you guys are doing, how you're sharing the podcast, how you're letting me know you're getting together in groups and talking about the information, how to apply it. So thanks for being part of, in a sense, of membership, and thanks for being here and watching and listening. We'll see you next time.